Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and we're doing our Remedio Lunch and Learn session again. And the last few weeks, we've been going through different people in the business to get you an idea of who is who. We start off with Jamie Byers, who's the UK and Ireland sales manager. We've had marketing, we've had head of alliances and product. And this week, we've got Matt Rowe, who's the chief technology officer. Let's bring Matt in. How are you doing today, Matt?
Good morning, Lee. How you doing? Doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to go through a similar set of questions that we've asked everyone else, just to get a feel for the different people at the organisation. So could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So born in England, in Bedfordshire. So lived there until I was about 10 years old, and then the family decided to move down to Cornwall. So we lived just in the Cornwall area, just by Callington. I went to school and everything there. Found my love of computers while I was there as well. And then I went to university up in Sheffield, where my dad was from. So that was fun. Did a computer science degree there for software engineering, which was extremely fun. And that really kind of cultivated that love of programming, love of engineering and architecture. And then I joined General Electric up in Leeds, where they had a base there. So I was part of a team just before Y2K that was helping to resolve some issues that they had, on their mainframes and preventing them from doing credit card authorization systems.
That was an interesting time, wasn't it? When everybody thought all the lights were going to go out as we switched over from 99 to 2000.
It was a very interesting time, and then nothing happened.
Yes. I don't remember anybody having any problems. I think a lot of people spent a very large amount of money making sure they didn't have any problems. But
I can tell you, GE spent a tremendous amount of money fixing things, and then absolutely nothing happened. And we were all looking at each other the next day like, did we do something wrong? It was good. But it really kind of cultivated my love of how to build scalable architecture. And I was lucky enough to continue to operate at GE during the time that I was at my third year at university, and then in my final year as well, which was great. And then I got the opportunity to join their graduate program, which was 4 6-month rotations in different businesses across GE at the time. So I started out in Bristol. In their data center organization, running part of their compute network, compute environment, sorry. So we were working on how do we do better server provisioning for GE businesses, which was, again, interesting. Then I moved to help run their European network business. So again, pretty fun for us to go do, just learning all about how do you build DNS at scale. For example, which DNS is always the problem, as you know, for being a computer.
AWS had a slight issue with DNS not so long ago, did they?
AWS certainly did have a big issue with DNS recently, and obviously the heart of the internet there. So yes, it's interesting to really learn that and understand exactly how that works and how that scales and where those failure points can actually be. So my third rotation of this actually took me to the US. As I said, it was supposed to be a 6-month move. Turned out I never left. Met my wife here as well. So she was part of the GE program at the same time I was. So I met her when we started the graduate program, and we've been together now, I guess that's 25 years, married 21. And
was she from the UK as well, or was she from the US or another country?
My wife is actually Ukrainian. Which has certainly been interesting in the last 10 years or so with challenges with Russia. But she's been over in the States since she was like 16, so pretty well acclimatized now. So after I spent 6 months in Stamford, Connecticut, we moved out to Cincinnati for a few years. So as I graduated their program. Started my first kind of real job, I'll say, as a black belt in enterprise architecture. So my responsibilities was around enterprise tools, enterprise monitoring tools for GE's corporate business. That turned into going out to other roles. Well, I'm sure we'll get into that in a second, but now I'll maybe finish the background of family. So I have, as I mentioned, my wife Eugenia is from Ukraine. I have 3 kids. Oldest Zachary, my daughter is Katya, and my youngest son is Sasha. So they're 12, 14, and about to be 16. So we're about to get into
Fun
driving age, which is pretty
fun
terrifying.
age.
Yeah, driving age and complicated fun, puberty ages. So
Yeah, boys or girls, or you're wanting
2
to do
boys,
things that
2
they're
boys
not
and one
quite old
one
enough to
daughter.
do. Yeah, it's an interesting. I had 3 girls, and it was quite challenging. But they're all between 39 and 43 now, so it's much easier. Now I've got their children instead. So and some of those are hitting 14, 15. One of them is 18 now as well. So yeah,
Wow.
it's interesting as it moves on. Coming back to some of your early bits, it's interesting when you're talking about large-scale network and also data center infrastructure. Over that 25 years or so, or maybe longer, it's changed dramatically, hasn't it? The way that we look at infrastructure and network. People rarely buy things nowadays. They're trying to use cloud-based services for majority of what they do, but they're still trying to monitor and manage that infrastructure. And some of the technologies like DNS are still the same, over this last 25 years. And like majority of IP networking is still using version 4. I know some people are utilizing version 6 in small ways, but not a lot's changed in some respects, but things have changed dramatically in others, haven't they?
They certainly have. Yes. So certainly seen an evolution of technology over my career. We were heavily into client server applications when I first started out, and now everything is completely web based. And it's amazing to see the evolution. And then you start talking about AI and how the market has really changed over the last few years. It's breathtaking to see.
Yeah, so it's changing so quickly these days. In the past, we used to talk about Moore's law and how compute was either getting faster or cheaper so quickly. This move to cloud makes it even quicker to come to a product release or things, because you've got that so readily available to you to spin something up and give it a try, which we never used to have. We'd have to build servers and install operating systems and certain infrastructure to be able to get to that point. So you'd be looking at weeks, if not months sometimes, to get to a point where you've got something that you can stand up. So yeah, very, very different world. So we talked about that GE piece. So tell us a bit more up to date then. How's the career gone up to this point of you joining Remedio? And we'll talk about Remedio afterwards.
Sure. So I always had a vision of being CTO. So I guess I've arrived eventually from that standpoint at where I wanted to be. And I chose roles pretty much to help gain that experience. I really wanted that broad breadth of roles. So as I mentioned, I started out with enterprise architecture components. I moved back to Connecticut to run one of GE's data centers. So I kind of got from the ground up, like learning about power systems and cooling and how you set up data centers for wiring and airflow and space management, etc. So that was a really fun experience to go learn that. And then I got the opportunity to step into a business that was having some challenges from a networking standpoint. Didn't really know networking that well when I joined. But I joined that organization to run their network operations team. And it was really eye-opening to think about the difference between different GE businesses. So, for example, GE Plastics wouldn't worry so much if they had a couple minutes of downtime. But if you talk to the business that I was in, which was retail finance at the time, credit card swipes, networks cannot be down. If you have a network down, then you're missing a credit card swipe, and that can cost you, hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute, even if it's down. So learning the difference in how you have to scale architecture for a company like that versus GE Plastics was interesting. That job went so well, they asked me to go run the compute organization for a while. So I did that. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I'm going to say the other thing is compliance is very different as well between a plastics business and retail finance that's using credit card transactions. You've got to look at PCI compliance across all of that network infrastructure, which is quite different if you're just running, traditional internal systems on a network.
It certainly is, and compliance has been a huge part of my career as well. So, which has followed me into Remedio, which we'll get to talk about a little bit later as well.
Yeah.
So, following kind of compute, I got the opportunity to run ServiceNow for GE. Again, my goal here being how do I make sure that I understand how new SaaS platforms are designed, built, operated at scale, and I had the opportunity to work very closely with their founder while we were scaling to GE's requirements. The product at the time was not very scalable, had a lot of reliability issues and a lot of scaling problems. So I spent a tremendous amount of time with their founder, Fred Luddy, just going through and making sure that we could build an architecture that could really help scale and fit the needs of GE. And the fun part we got to do was to not only do that from an IT standpoint, but we also adapted it to be able to use it for things like wind turbines, managing wind turbines, which is a whole new business model for them. I'd love to say I got royalties from that one, but I didn't. It was certainly a lot of fun.
But process is process, because what ServiceNow is a process platform, isn't it? It's how do you make things work together in a process flow?
Exactly. And I saw applications for that in so many different places, and you can see now that business has really scaled and really gone into a bunch of different places, and it really is just the process workflow that you can use for anything. It was around 2014 at that point, and I got a phone call from the CIO of retail finance, which they were spinning out of GE at that time, and I got the opportunity to come and run the network and voice organizations, which then turned into running all of technology engineering for what became Synchrony Financial. Great opportunity to run that. I mean, it's not very often you get the opportunity to say, hey, let's rebuild the entire infrastructure of an organization while it's still running, as you get kicked out of GE essentially. And oh, by the way, you have to do it in 18 months. Probably one of the most stressful and tiring 18 months of my career, I would say. But a really great achievement for us to be able to do that and make
what kind of things did you need to do that you didn't have in-house within that business unit at the time? Because I'm sure there's a lot of core infrastructure and core service that are delivered in a large corporate. So there must have been some things that you had to create from scratch because you didn't have them part of that business unit as you spun it out.
We had to build basically everything. So most of GE runs with a shared services organization. So we had to build new data centers, we had to build new networks, we had to build, obviously populate data centers with servers, we had to build help desks, we had to build, incident response teams, security organization. I mean, we had to build the whole thing. And to do that when you're also running a multi-billion-dollar organization is pretty hard to do.
Challenging. But I think a great experience, like you say, to actually go through that process, you're going to learn a lot.
Yes, I certainly did. And then we got into, okay, we moved everything out of GE, and then, okay, now we need to modernize it. Right? So now we had to make everything, cloud-ready applications, and move all the architectures to cloud-ready applications in preparation to go to an AWS, an Azure, a Google, etc. So I spent a lot of time re-architecting applications at that time too, which was a fantastic experience. And then that led me to...
How did you select a cloud platform for that? Because there are so many different options out there. How do you pick it? Is it on feature and functionality? Is it price? Based on the size of the infrastructure you require. How do you make those decisions, or is it a combination of all of them?
So our goal at Synchrony was always to be cloud agnostic. So we picked a Pivotal Cloud Foundry, now owned by VMware, as a solution for that. So we could actually run that in AWS, we could run it in Google, we could run it in Azure. From our standpoint, that wouldn't have mattered. So that was a design decision we deliberately made to make sure that we could be flexible. We had customers like Walmart, for example, who don't want any of their infrastructure running on Azure, on AWS, sorry. So we had to make sure that we could have the platform to be able to move them between clouds as we wanted. So that was our architectural design at core, was to make sure that we could operate wherever we wanted, including on-prem, and be able to scale and move based on resiliency requirements as well as security requirements or business requirements. So it's core of what we did. It was my work with AWS at that point, which then took me to my next career move, which was my first real foray into security, and quite the team to go do that. So I joined AWS security. That will be just over 3 years ago now, and I ran a team which we eventually called platform engineering. But essentially, what that was I ran all of the endpoint security components, things like CrowdStrike, our own internal management tools, posture management tools, and data loss prevention tooling for Amazon for the corporate fleet, which is about 1 million endpoints or so. So pretty sizable fleet. So that's one part of my organization. It's a pretty sizable,
extremely large infrastructure to look after.
Yeah. And then I also ran network visibility for all of AWS, with the exception of data centers. So all the corporate offices, all the distribution centers, etc. I ran the data lake organization, which is a multi-exabyte data lake that we used to run there for all the security investigations, etc. And then eventually I also used to run the cloud posture management team. So we ran a couple different tools there, primarily Wiz, as the solutions that we were leveraging there. So that was my 3-year stint at Amazon, which was also where I got introduced to Tal, who is our CEO of Remedio, after they won a CrowdStrike and AWS startup accelerator. We got introduced to it then, and I guess the rest is history from that standpoint.
Yeah, so you've only been at Remedio a short time. So what were the key things that made you join Remedio?
So Remedio is an interesting, very interesting product, and it serves an area that is extremely underserved in the industry, I think, and that is the area of misconfiguration. So a lot of tools will show you, hey, you're missing this patch, or you've got this vulnerability. Not many tools get into misconfigurations, and that is where Remedio really shines. So not only do we look at misconfigurations, but we actually also fix them. So we're, as the name would suggest, we remediate things, and that is one of the core values of our organization. Is not only do we show you, we fix it, and if we need to, you have a way to revert it. So those are the key kind of 3 principles we have when we develop something for our tool. That really gets us into the ability to do, as you think about misconfigurations, policy validation, and compliance. That's 3 legs of what I would consider a full-legged stool that will help you really do device posture management at scale. The 4th leg being patching and vulnerability management, which is an area we're about to get into to really complete the vision and be able to really drive device posture management across devices and across businesses at scale.
Do you think sometimes people
helped me decide to come join Remedio, because I saw the potential of the systems and the gap that we had in the market?
Do you think sometimes people confuse Remedio as being a vulnerability assessment tool?
They do. because we also kind of straddle the line a little bit. We'll tell you where there are some vulnerabilities already today. We do want to take it to that next level to get into really deep OS vulnerability discussions and also third-party applications. But we do a lot of base misconfigurations, which will show up vulnerabilities. Things like log4j. We might look at principal problems. We might look at SMB problems. How you're using, how root users are defined across your environment. So we do get into those areas, which is probably why some people think about us for vulnerability management already.
Okay, and I think that mapping of compliance, I think, is a great thing. I've been talking about that in some of my posts, but because if you've got a particular compliance requirement for your organisation, such as PCI, or in the UK, a lot of people use Cyber Essentials as a good starting point. If you can actually map your current situation against one of those standards and actually see where you're doing well, but also identify areas that you're not doing so well, I think that's a really good starting point to be able to fix challenges you have with your compliance.
Exactly. I think providing that visibility is obviously the first part, but where Remedio is a little bit different from everybody else is we take the hard work away from remediating the problem. So a lot of, as I said, a lot of companies will say, we know we've got these vulnerabilities, or we know we've got these misconfigurations, but we don't have the manpower or the expertise to actually go resolve the problem. A lot of tools require you to script that remediation yourselves. We've taken that hard work away and done it for you. So you've got couple click remediation across all of the things that we detect and are able to remediate, which makes it's a game changer for people in that context. It also helps with the separation of duties issues, right? So most organizations, their security team is the one identifying vulnerabilities, but they're not necessarily in charge of remediating them and resolving them.
No.
It typically falls on your CIO organization, CTO organization, whoever's managing the infrastructure, to actually go resolve those items. And with the different platforms that are available, that becomes a real time suck for people. And then the skill gap wise, being able to know all the different systems to be able to remediate all those different items is really hard. So Remedio takes that hard work and does it for you.
Yeah, because some of the things I've been talking about again is around this difference between, say, a standard vulnerability tool. So it'll say that you've got maybe a log4j problem, or a problem with SMB1 because you've got some of the legacy SMB infrastructure still inside your Windows architecture, and it'll tell you, say, which knowledge base to look at to understand how to deal with it. But again, you've got to study it, but then get someone to actually do the work to do that remediation. Whereas with Remedio, it's just hit a button. But it's not just hit a button, it's also going to tell you what the impact will be on the infrastructure you've got. Especially if you've got a very large set of infrastructure, you want to really know what the impact will be. But if you know that, say, 75% of your infrastructure doesn't actually use that particular piece of software or infrastructure, say, as an example of SMB1, you can say, right, that's easy. I can select all of the devices that aren't actually using it, but it is still actually enabled on, and just turn it off, with a click of a button, without disrupting the operation of the business. Yeah, which I think is an amazing difference between that and the other tools that are out there.
Exactly. We like to call that being context aware. And you're exactly right. We try to make sure for everything that we measure, that we look for, how do we safely identify which gaps we can close, without causing business impact, or to really kind of highlight to you, okay, this is an area where you are vulnerable, but you're actually using this for a particular reason. Then you can go make some decisions on, okay, is this a risk I need to accept, or is this an area that we need to take some investment in and choose to close the gaps. So our goal is always to be context aware, so we can help you make those hard decisions with data.
So we talked about, enhancing that vulnerability side of the piece, the fourth leg in on the stool. So we're covering that as well. What else do you think we should know from your perspective about Remedio?
So we are also kind of getting into application control. So where we want to be able to go is to, for example, if you have a particular golden image that you need, like everybody in accounting needs to have this particular set of software, and it needs to be set at this particular version. We want to be able to accommodate that, and then where you may have a completely different department that has different set of requirements, and you don't want them to have certain software. So we have the ability with our application control module that we're building right now to give those businesses that level of control, and where you can also block certain applications. So, for example, I might not want, if I'm a Microsoft shop, I might not want a Cisco WebEx tool to be installed as a browser extension, for example. I want to take those things and make sure that they're off the fleet. Or I don't want certain. I have a corporate password policy. I want to make sure. Password manager that is installed, and then I find other ones elsewhere that potentially doing data stealing. You want to make sure that you can get rid of those. So we have an application control component that's coming soon that will help us really manage applications better across the fleet as well.
Yeah, because there's a lot of components, isn't there? There's the infrastructure it all sits on, so the physical network, the software within that network, whichever brand you've gone with. There's the physical hardware that the compute resides in, and the operating systems that sit it within that, commonly in cloud platforms these days, but could be on-prem as well, usually virtualized. So there's all these bits, but then you've got all those applications that sit on top of that are a part of that stack of components that you need to look at from a security perspective.
Exactly. Exactly, and coverage is a key area that we're trying to drive as well. So we're moving into containerless components, Kubernetes, etc. So we're continuing to grow the footprint, and then the next big thing that will be exciting is how do we bring a more guided remediation, workflow to people? Because again, the list of vulnerabilities and exposures is, in many organizations, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of items that they need to remediate, and knowing where to start is often the hardest thing. So not only do we give you the context of where, data on which ones are low risk that you can remediate, we'll actually then look at taking that a step further and saying, okay, here's the ones that are harder. These are the things you should go investigate so you can make a decision on what to do there. And then here's the ones that are medium risk that you could actually go remediate if you make certain choices that we help provide. So we're getting into guided remediation. No presentation wouldn't be complete without saying AI somewhere in there. So our guided AI will help customers go in that direction with the goal of making the changes that you need to make to your business to make it more secure in an intelligent and risk-averse way.
So people talk about AI as being a problem because of losing jobs and all these other things. But anything that's AI or automation, you get quick response, but you get consistency as well. And I think that's something that we really need, especially in security within large organizations and their technical infrastructure. You need that consistency and quick speed to identify and deal with it. And if you look at how AI will be used by the bad guys, all the red hat guys out there are going to be using AI. In fact, it's been used already. We know, the people have been using a variety of AI tools to identify key targets and specific vulnerabilities that they can utilize in those targets. So, we know that's been happening already. So that'll continue, and they'll build their own tooling like they've done, around, the traditional ways to hack an environment and breach security that's in place. But they'll continue to do that using AI, but also use AI to actually control and manage those attacks as well.
Exactly. And the way I look at this is, bad guys are inherently lazy, right? They're going to take the easiest way in. So they can use an AI to find and go through all the data and at scale find where businesses have problems, and that's it's a great toolkit for them to have to be able to find those gaps quickly. Um, which is why we as defenders need to use it as well to make sure that we're finding those opportunities just as quickly and being able to close the doors when as quickly as we can as well.
So we're running out of time because we're at 30 minutes, and it didn't feel like 30 minutes that chat. But I think just to finish off, what do you think your key challenges are now you're at Remedio in this role as CTO? What do you think you're going to be challenged with moving forward?
I think the fun part that we have as an organization is learning to scale, and that is, we're a 50-person company right now, and being able to serve some of the big enterprise customers, we are going to continue to need to scale, and we're going to learn some fun lessons along the way, and hopefully leaning on my experience of running organizations at a massive scale will help. And I think that will be one of our fun challenges, just from a culture standpoint, from a technology standpoint, and learning how to operate at an enterprise level. So we've got some great customers today that have really helped shape the footprint of the organization and the footprint of the product, and we are so looking forward to just being able to take that broader and wider. We talk about Remedio being the best kept secret in security. We hope to be that tool that everybody is talking about, and we're able to really serve their business needs over time. So that's probably the thing that I'm excited about.
So if anybody wants to check out the website, there's the website details below. Also, we're continuing these every week. So next week, join us again at 1 p.m. GMT on Wednesday. We're going to start looking at some of the technology from next week, but we're also hoping to have Tal with us at some stage, but we've not got that scheduled yet, but we hope to have that quite soon. But Matt, thank you very much. It was so interesting to understand a bit more about your background, but also that GE journey that you took, but then through each different business unit and each area that you've actually specialized in, and have got some real understanding of key assets around that retail finance, taking a business out of GE and rebuilding all of that infrastructure. It's quite interesting how you've had to go through that, but also what lessons you must have learned in doing that as well. But also then, security at a large scale in AWS, that must have been, very interesting compared to like a traditional business that might be looking at, 5 to 10,000 endpoints. When you're looking at, millions of endpoints, it's quite a different scale, isn't it?
It certainly is quite a different scale, yes.
Okay. Well, if you can hang on while we just shut down things, and then we'll just have a quick chat afterwards. But thank you very much for joining me today. It's been really interesting, and hopefully everybody who watches this video, either live or in the near future, get some real value from it as well. But thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Lee. Pleasure.
Thank you.